Whether your audio or video is in 100 plus languages, you can subtitle in English in one click.
And welcome everyone to another episode of Slater Pod. So today we're excited to have Ramsri Gol on the podcast. So Ramsri is the founder behind 3 AI SaaS apps: Question AI, Super Meme, Super Translate AI. He also teaches courses, NLP, GPT-3, all things AI SaaS. So hi Ramsri, and thanks for joining.
Thanks a lot for Florian for the introduction. Very excited to be here. I've heard about Slater almost 4-5 years back, and I've been following the journey a little bit. So very excited to be part of this podcast.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for the shout out. So first, I have 2 questions to get started. So how does one become one of the most interesting Twitter follows out there? Number 1. And number 2, where are you recording this from? What country, what city?
So for the first question, I think some people have it easy with the following, but I kind of do it almost like a job, which is every day wake up and allocate like 2 hours to put out content since I've been on this creator journey. Yeah, I think we can go deeper into that later, but short answer is a lot of hard work. And similarly, I repurpose content on LinkedIn, Twitter, Medium, and YouTube. Then coming to the second question, I am currently based out of Hyderabad, India. That's in the southern part of India.
Got it. Yeah. So I mean, for anybody, we'll put obviously all your accounts in the show notes. So hit the follow button. Really, you kind of keep me up to date. I feel like I'm not missing a lot by just like prioritizing what you're posting. So let's go a little bit further what you do. Just try to kind of describe all the different initiatives you do. And we're going to post, you posted just recently, like a couple of days ago, like a very nice kind of chart graph of like all your different activities. So we're going to put that on the YouTube videos and in the show notes. So you call yourself a creator, and your work kind of broadly falls into 3 practices, you say, like AI consulting, AI courses, and AI SaaS. And under AI SaaS, you started something called supertranslate.ai. So just give us a brief tour of your online presence and some of the projects that you're running.
I call myself a creator for the sake of no other better word that doesn't give you a salary every month. It's been almost 2.5 years since I saw a monthly salary. I mean, it was kind of I wouldn't say random, but kind of by chance journey that I got into this, because 2.5 years back I was at a job. Then I thought I could do better than that. Then I started on this journey, and I realized there were multiple things that I loved, and I wanted to blend everything in. So, in short, I do 3 things. One is I have my own small AI micro SaaS, almost 3 of them, and 2 of them are in the $1,000 plus revenue, monthly recurring revenue, and one of them just got started, supertranslate.ai. And besides that, I teach courses on Udemy as well as on my own website, learnnlp.academy, mostly focused on natural language processing, GPT-3, all this kind of stuff. And the third thing that I do is AI consulting. Once in a while, whenever there are interesting projects, I take up consulting in the space and deliver them. So in general, 3 things that I do apart from this: content creation actively on LinkedIn, Twitter, Medium, and YouTube. Yeah.
What's your background so you can do all these things? Like university, I don't know, degrees, prior jobs. Like how can you, I mean, on the one hand, you're building this online presence. On the other hand, you're commenting very expertly on kind of AI. And like you're for me, one of the most interesting accounts to follow. To just not think I'm losing out on all this, big language model and all its applications. Like, do you have a background in this specific field or something adjacent where you think like, which makes it a little easier for you to catch up on all the technical stuff that's going on?
So I do have a background in this. Primarily, I would say I come from signal processing, image processing background. I did my master's from Arizona State University, ASU, back in 2011 to 13. Then I worked in the Valley. But I think I was pre-deep learning or this neural network era engineer. I started working in the Valley. Then during 2015, 2016, two big revolutions happened. One is the deep learning revolution. Second is actually the course MOOC, massive online learning courseware. Coursera, Udemy, Udacity, all these things took off. So I upskilled myself apart from the work that I do into all these areas, mostly in the AI space. When I mean AI, I first learned about self-driving car technology and stuff, then slowly moved on to other generative AI stuff, as people call it today. But back in 2018 itself, I pitched in Hong Kong and few other places about generating AI artist. So basically art with AI. I think it has gotten into more popularity in this year and last year. But that's the short journey. I do come from this background, but at school I was the tech was not up there, and I learned quite a lot online. And 2018 I took a massive turn, which is not be the coder who always codes these stuff, but rather learn the business side and creator side. So I made a dramatic shift from moving back from Silicon Valley back to India after 8 years in the Valley. I moved back to India to try and do entrepreneurship, and learned about other things like creator journey, consulting, courses, and that's the kind of that's my background. Yeah.
So when you come with a technical background like yours, and you're seeing all these, evolutions and revolutions and disruptions happening, maybe in 2015 with deep learning, and then maybe 2019, 18, and now, like with kind of the breakthrough of large language models, like what level of overwhelmedness, for lack of a better term, do you experience? Or do you feel like, well, for me, this has kind of all been a long time coming, and it's kind of the logical next step now that we're taking? Just for we're obviously trying to absorb on the Slater side a lot of what's going on, and we find it's somewhat difficult. Like, how do you feel having the technical background in this?
Definitely. I would say it is definitely overwhelming because I've been in this space in and out almost 4 or 5 years. I mean, in the deep learning AI space, but even today, it's hard for me to keep up with everything. There's speech, there's image, there's text. So LLM text, then you have all these stable diffusion, DALI in the image side, then you have speech synthesis companies, as well as whisper kind of models coming up. It is definitely overwhelming for me to even keep up with all these things. Sometimes I do narrow focus based on the projects that I'm working or the startups that I'm currently building. If you see actively, mostly I focused on text and voice, not too much on the image space. For the lack of keeping up with everything, it's extremely hard, even for someone like me who's been in this space and actually build smaller systems behind, not at the scale like OpenAI, but with open source models. I've built these text generation apps previously, but even for me it is extremely hard to keep up. Yeah.
Got it. I feel better now. So thanks for that. You did mention before, like, you threw revenue numbers out for your micro SaaS, a few thousand, and you're very transparent with that, because what you do is kind of it's called build in public, which to me is always it's very interesting, but I wouldn't want to do that. It's a lot of stress. So tell us more about what's build in public, and why would somebody want to do that?
Great question. So I approach build in public this way. If I had, let's say, a strong network in the localization industry, and I build an amazing, let's say, technology, it's easy for me to just connect with the people and push through the technology and launch something. But if you see all my apps, one is catered for memes, one is for making quizzes in edtech, and the other thing is for the localization industry. Now, if I do not have a network of my own, the other way for me to is actually hold a beacon on the internet by saying that I'm doing this, and relevant people can find me either through SEO blogs or Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. And I didn't know the term build in public. I thought it was, if I didn't have the network, it was natural for me to just post and attract the people who have the network to join me. One, on the customer side, people can discover that this app exists, and on the second side, co-founders who have complementary skills can find me. So in that journey, it became very natural for me to say that, okay, I'm struggling on this part, then I put together this app and this is live now. Then that became like a daily routine for me. And in the recent years, build in public momentum has caught up, even more formalized. But I feel blessed to have, naturally found no other way than do this, because I don't have like an offline network in the verticals that I'm working. Because coming from software engineering background, I just do coding and related stuff. Yeah.
But you're very transparent with the numbers. That's always what's striking to me. We're always trying to get people to give us their revenues, and we put them in a list. And like, some people are more open than others. But like, one is sharing your top line revenue once a year. The other is like what Build in Public people do, is like posting your daily users, your daily revenue. And when you're at very, very low levels, it's like, hey, I got 200 MRR now, and I'm excited. And so that doesn't put a lot, A, does that put a lot of pressure on you on the one hand? And B, is that what's giving this kind of amplifier effect, that like people are just so honest and open and transparent that like naturally you're gravitating towards following these accounts as opposed to accounts that just repost kind of PR and marketing?
I'll tell you two approaches that I do. So the first one was, I, growing up in India, I always wanted to know if someone was working at a job, right? Microsoft or Google. I wanted to know their kind of net worth, or what they make, what they take home. And if I didn't know them, there was no way for me to ask their salary upfront or how much they make. So almost it became like, you don't know what anyone makes, and you just assume from their life. And you can, if you're better informed, you can make better choices whether you want to make that kind of money with that kind of work style. Secondly, you can inspire other people to follow your journey, whether there is money or not. If, let's say, I'm digging and there's no gold in here, I can at least tell other people that this is waste of time. Go find another, another place where you can find. Or if there is a lot of if there is a lot of gold, instead of me trying to be just selfish, anyway, I'm not like VC back to hide or show growth metrics to other. I'll take my small portion and let others who have energy and effort and hard work also take some. It's kind of that approach, which is, why can't people tell what they make? Why is it like a social norm to not say it? And I started from that perspective. Hey, I made only $1,000 from this course in 2 years, but this course gave me $20,000, and this is what I made in SaaS. So if I'm not taking a FANG job, I wanted to tell people that there is another way you can make, let's say, $1,000 from course, $1,000 from SaaS, and 1,000 from consulting, and survive. And I am very transparent that I don't even advocate people to take my journey. I think, one, it's mentally taxing, especially if you have family or other obligations that you need to fulfill, either paying loans, etc. So I try to give both sides of the coin. But if someone is chasing freedom and they are afraid to take that first leap, I can say that I'm doing this with a kid, toddler, and maintaining a family, living in India. And the other thing is, I want to show that people living in India can make like $150 an hour or $200 an hour with consulting, right? A lot of times, if you do not say it, no one gets inspired, and they think they sometimes take less deserving opportunities, etc. But if you're transparent, you'll either inspire people, or you'll let people know, you will even let them make better choices for themselves, that maybe this is not the right thing for them, even if they want like a fixed income and other things. Yeah.
I love it. I find it very, very nice movement, and I'm following a fair amount of people that are doing this build in public. Um, so, what social channels have you chosen, and like to kind of push, because it can't be everywhere, right? And like, where would you see the greatest kind of return on time invested? You mentioned before that you do like 2 hours, very deliberate, like every morning 2 hours. So, where do you see the greatest return?
I think I first saw my greatest ROI on LinkedIn. I started sharing content. Right now, I'm at 46,000 followers. Um, and I launched my first course there and got good ROI. But in the recent times, I don't see much growth on LinkedIn. Even reach has lowered. I think it has several factors. I think even Twitter, people say the same thing once they reach, or some people have high growth. But nevertheless, short answer was, in the recent times, LinkedIn gave me the highest ROI. But I am very aware of platform risk and growing audience on just one platform. So I diversified into Twitter, and probably I'm at 5,750 followers, slowly growing on Twitter, and YouTube and Medium. I do have like somewhere between 1,500 to 2,000 followers. So I'm trying to diversify into all these channels. I look at it this way: daily content should go at max on 2 platforms in terms of energy. For me, LinkedIn and Twitter is that, but you need some long-term strategy, kind of like SEO or discoverability on the internet, if you want to simplify it. So you need blog post or YouTube. I try to do both sometimes. And The reason why I do this is not just to grow my SaaS or anything. Since I have multiple things, which is courses, consulting, or SaaS, if people find anything in any of these things that I can offer value, it's return on investment for me. So I kind of do this almost sometimes without any call to action or deliberate outcome even. I just love creating content, and I know that it will reward. And my biggest strategy has been this: the world is evolving such that whatever job you hold should be internet facing. First it should be internet facing, then it should be, your whatever managerial or your network. It should be internet facing job if you want to thrive for the next 10 to 20 years.
Correct. Yeah. How do you balance building products, so micro SaaS, like actually doing the actual coding and the building and the marketing, and then being on social media? How do you balance that? Is that very deliberate? Is it kind of more like how you feel on each day, or?
I think it's a blend, and I don't. Some people follow marketing week and building week, but I mean, generally, so far I have not done anything like that. For me, everything is mixed, blended. For example, if SaaS, I think I've implemented most features for SaaS, and I have time, I just go and update a course or create a new course. And when I'm bored of courses, I work on SaaS updates because people will be emailing, and there'll be some consistent themes that people are asking for. And the other thing that I do is, whatever I encounter, whether it is understanding payments with Stripe or how to do something in no code tools like bubble.io, whatever I struggled with today, I'll post it tomorrow or even tonight into a blog post or a Twitter thread or LinkedIn post even. So that what I realize is that if with 10 years of experience, I struggle through something, then I know that at least beginners have something to learn from that. Although I might look stupid sometimes just not understanding what are taxes in Stripe, I still go ahead and ask. Because I realized recently that even if you have a SaaS operating out of US and have nothing to do with Europe, you still have to collect and report taxes if you have one European customer even for some of the countries. So you have to actually pay VAT and other things, at least register online and pay. And that was not obvious to me. There are so many things like that. Even people talk about Whisper using that, but once I use it in production for some of the outputs, it's so bad that you cannot even imagine how these 2-3 sentences were randomly generated by Whisper. I tell people that okay, we found 5 videos like which were fine to listen, but Whisper did very bad on them. So things like that, things that would only only a practitioner would know. I try to tell people about that. Yeah.
So let's talk about Super Translate. You alluded there with your Whisper comment. So what's Super Translate? Who's using it? How do you see traction? Where do you see traction?
So in short, Super Translate as of today is one-click subtitling app. No matter whether your audio or video is in 100 plus languages, you can subtitle in English in one click. But people don't understand the full-blown thing with it, which is if you want to really write subtitles, of course, coming from localization industry, you would be aware that there are guidelines that it should not exceed certain characters, and the split should happen not abruptly, but where there's like a conjunction, let's say and or but, so that it's smooth, things like that. So the other thing is, speaker diarization and regular stuff like identifying different speakers or word level timestamps, things like that. So subtitling itself has quite a lot of nuances beyond just getting the transcription. How do you split the transcription perfectly with the split length taken into account and other things? So once Whisper came out, we realized that there's a new wave of subtitling that you do with Whisper. One is this aspect that I discussed. Second is, if you wanted to convert any video or audio from, let's say, French to English, you previously had to do French speech to text, then a translation, and then you would get the subtitles. But what Whisper did, which I think was revolutionary, was one-click translation directly from French to English or any language to English without any intermediary translation engine as such. And that I think was revolutionary, and it was about time to leverage this one-click direct translation as well as the accuracy of Whisper and build on top of this. But the end goal is much bigger, which is to build one-click motion graphics for short-form creators. For example, you might have seen these videos. Hey, I am Ramsri, then hey comes up here as subtitle, I am comes up here, Ramsri. I have 5 ways to show, then 5 number will appear in big. So text appears as motion graphics popping up, zooming in, sliding, things like that. Can you do that in one click? If you give me your short form video that you are posting on Instagram, if you just give me the input video, can I give an output video with subtitles that is from Whisper's accuracy, but animations that are overlaid that you don't need to edit for 2 hours to get those kind of animations. Rather do one-click motion graphic subtitles. Yeah.
Maybe have like a template gallery or something like that where you can choose like 100 different styles.
Yes.
I was not aware that Whisper does the one-click multilingual, that it has that. But hang on, but Whisper is an open source model. So how does it do the quote unquote translation? Like it's just all baked into the giant model, or do they have an additional like machine translation step, or do you know how that's done?
When I mean translation, Whisper is trained in one way, which is any language to English subtitles. So it cannot do other combinations. It can take in any audio from 100 plus languages and get accurate English subtitles. That's about it. And when I mean there's no explicit translation engine, the neural network itself is trained such that you have Hindi audio or French audio, then you get English transcription. And it's trained in such a way that there is no explicit translation engine that you can point out that this is a translation engine. It's almost like, think about like a human speaker who hears French and writes English. Yeah, it's almost like that.
Now, Whisper launched so it's OpenAI, right? So it launched like in September 2022. And you kind of spun up this front end microSaaS within a few weeks. So, A, how does one do that? What's kind of your stack like also for payments and things like that? How can you build something so quickly when something like Whisper comes out?
I think one of the biggest thing is actually hosting Whisper scalably, at least to some scale. So whenever a new model comes up, especially with these language models, it's hard because you need a GPU to host. And one of the biggest revolutionary things that happened in the recent times in the last, I would say, 6 months to 1 year is serverless GPUs.
You just posted about this today.
Today or yesterday, yeah. So serverless GPU simply means you just call and only pay for the compute that's being used. Let's say you used 1 minute of GPU time, you just pay a few cents. Now, what happened was no matter whether Whisper or some other model came up, instead of you hosting that for $500 and paying $500 bill for one GPU, you can instead use serverless GPU where you only pay per usage. So one of the biggest innovations was quickly taking any open source model and building an API on top of it with serverless GPUs to host it. That's part one. Second is partnering with developers who can build the front end very quickly. And since I've built SaaS over and over at least 3-4 times, I know the fastest tech stack to pick from serverless GPUs to AWS to front end and test it out and launch even on by building in public online itself on LinkedIn and Twitter. That's where I get my beta users. So who are the people who are currently using it? Simply anyone who wants subtitles. It could be YouTubers. There are many non-native YouTubers who put out content in, let's say, Hindi or Spanish. They are on Instagram, etc. They use Super Translate, just one click and they get the subtitles in English, probably edit a little bit and then get the SRT file. So we launched in probably a few weeks or 1 month, 1.5 months time after initial tests. And right now it's probably at $200 and probably 14 or 15 paying customers. But if I have to be honest, we did not even, publicly post too much about Super Translate. Simple reason is that our tech implementation is actually lagging behind because all of us are part-time. We could not move at the developer speed that we wanted to. So we wanted to keep low and build more features like smart splitting and all that speaker diarization, because Whisper doesn't support speaker identification natively. So you have to merge from various transcription service onto Whispers and do a blend of things, etc. So there's some R&D work happening there. So we are kind of actually laying low and hope people don't discover and think that it's not, fully ready yet. And that's why we are moving slowly. But there is one big, I would say, plus in what we are doing currently, which is one of our third co-founder is actually a localization expert sitting out of UK. He has been traditionally running this localization agency with folks, that is people, regular people doing this, translators doing this stuff. So we are very confident that if we have the right platform, we can first integrate with him and actually build it there so that we have a critical audience and feedback loop established right there than we seeking out feedback from the general public as well. That's been one of our confidence, yeah.
So if somebody listening to this podcast would think, well, this sounds interesting, can I maybe get in touch and have you guys, like what you just described, like for my translation agency, for my media localization agency, like would that still be open, like kind of a partner approach where they get access to it and can kind of play around with it a little bit?
The short answer is definitely yes. That is what we are building, which is building out a system in the localization industry. You might be aware that you need to have even checks, assign tasks to certain people and you need to have multiple checks. And so it's almost like you need to have half project management and half actual whisper or whatever it is.
100%. It's a project management industry.
Exactly. So we are building that out and we are in the initial phases, and definitely possible, and that's what we are moving towards, but it will be some time before we can make it open to general public at that scale. Yeah.
Going back to the serverless GPU, I mean, I'm not a tech guy, so how does that differ from like an AWS in the past? I kind of thought I had wrapped my head around AWS, all right, kind of compute on demand, you're building it there. It was great for all the startups for the past 15 years. So why is there an opening for serverless SaaS when there is something like AWS?
Very good question. So first of all, so far, whenever people talked about serverless and compute, mostly they were referring to CPU, because most of the tasks that you wanted to do were not compute heavy. Only deep learning and all these high GPU processing tasks need compute heavy. And what happened was, like spinning up a GPU server doing a certain task and closing it down, because the deployment and hosting and all those packaging for GPU is slightly more complex than CPU. CPU, you can use any, let's say, Intel CPU or any other CPU and run a task and get the job done. But when it comes to GPU, there are so many layers because you need to work with correct kernels that are used with NVIDIA GPU or any other GPU that you use. So there is quite a lot of complication. There's quite a lot of infrastructure complication that's going on with GPU. And if you have to provide that serverlessly, which is whenever you have a task, you need to spin up a GPU or keep it ready, do the task and shut down or keep it low apart from the memory of RAM, etc. It's a whole new ball game, maintaining GPUs, scaling GPUs, and maintaining them serverlessly. And that need was probably not there until the last 1-2 years. Until last 2 years, 1-2 years, people were happy, and anyone were building huge models, they had their own GPU servers. So the short answer is that AWS also has GPUs. You can use those GPUs, but you need to write custom code to bring up a GPU, do a certain task and do that, close it down. So it's almost like a 100K or 150K developer's task to just maintain these GPUs, use them and shut them down. So instead, these serverless GPU companies have come where they provided a layer which is almost like a UI UX layer to not need a explicit developer who handles this, but rather any software engineer can use and quickly spin up and do the task and get done. Yeah.
So it's also because there's like this explosion of micro SaaS like yours that need access to that compute without, having to build this giant infrastructure or just this more complex infrastructure. And so we're going to see a lot more of these serverless GPUs.
What you said is perfect, because now micro SaaS means you need to pay per compute. Then only you can be profitable, monetizable. So a lot of players have come up, at least SMB level. You don't go for dedicated GPUs, you want to use compute level, and that also spun the demand. And of course, all these stable diffusion, image generation things, it also added fuel to this serverless GPU fire.
Yeah, and this is open source, so I guess it's not, you need to drop it in somewhere. All right, I think I'm starting to understand. I'm learning in public here. There you go. Let's talk about ChatGPT. Obviously, kind of what everybody has been talking about over the past, month or so. And the inevitable. There's Bard from Google, and there's probably going to be in 5-6 months. There's going to be a few more out there. How do you see this impacting what you're doing? Like, how is it impacting the narrative around, just building these applications on top of these powerful full models?
I think definitely ChatGPT is revolutionary, because I can tell from personal experience that no other technology or tool has penetrated to the level that I have. Let's say local YouTubers who are doing regional channels are also talking about it. It was never heard of. And in this span, which is just 2-3 months, right now, almost local newspapers are writing about ChatGPT, local YouTubers are talking about ChatGPT. It's almost they have done more than the technological front. I am super impressed with the marketing, because there could be a revolutionary AI tool, but this kind of marketing viral growth loop is something I've never heard of or seen in the 10 years of my journey, I would say. And coming to the technology as such, of course, everyone who has played with it would understand, from writing code to marketing things or copy. It's been like disruption all over. And to be very honest, a lot of companies, let's say Microsoft or even good number of companies who have built on GPT-3 layer, have seen decline in their month on month growth, etc., because of widespread chat GPT growth. And in one way, it did affect even some of our SaaS, like Question, a little bit. But one of the positives is that what I'm building is in a vertical. So in an edtech vertical, I'm building this quiz generator. So although people can go ahead and create their own prompts, etc., it's not like you can come up with the best prompt and maintain for one for true or false quiz, one for MCQ. So even if you provide an easy one-click button UI over ChatGPT or something like that in a fixed vertical, that's good enough. At least you can be somewhat defensible. But time will tell. And to be very honest, like, it is definitely scary for a lot of SaaS builders who have built not in a vertical but a regular SaaS. And even in vertical, like, a lot of people that I talk to have been also using ChatGPT directly. Some of the customers who churned. So definitely that's there.
Yeah, we're trying to get our heads around what it means for the kind of enterprise translation, enterprise localization industry, because we're at the other, like a lot of the people that would read Slater and be on Slater would be our clients, are at the other end of the extreme, not micro SaaS, but like massive enterprise grade, software or software's or kind of AI agency type of businesses. So I wonder how fast something like ChatGPT is going to make it through to the enterprise layer, where it's deployed at I don't know, the level of like a McDonald's globally or something like that. Bringing it back to the micro SaaS. So I'm a very kind of SaaS curious person, so I keep registering for services here and there. How, with this kind of explosion of micro SaaS, how would you advise? Is there maybe something you can do other than just registering and signing up? Then like understanding what's useful tech and maybe what's more kind of just a front end that looks great and somebody built a nice landing page, but there's not much behind. Like I've run across a couple of those over the past few months as well.
Especially when it comes to micro SaaS, I look at it this way, which is, built by a handful of people and doing only one thing and that thing very well, not like diversifying into everything. And their goal is definitely not to build a $1 billion company. So they're not attacking a full market, but rather a niche within that market. For example, if you think about me, I'm not trying to attack the education sector at all. I'm just focused on creating assessments and quizzes, classroom assessments, and that's about it. That's where I am lying. And definitely with, the marketing, SaaS, and all these aspects, sometimes people just build landing pages, collect just emails, and do nothing. That's also there. They're trying to validate and everything. I don't know if sometimes it's fair, sometimes it's not. Sometimes they just even take the payment and, sometimes don't deliver it, and sometimes they refund and sometimes they don't. So there are definitely cons with micro SaaS, which is not higher level of accountability. And, if to be very honest, we working on multiple projects as well, it's divided time. So you cannot grow, iterate, and deliver at the level of a VC funded dedicated team as well, right? So there are few pros and cons. Definitely those are there. But I would say usually I sign up, and if it's beyond an email which says we are launching soon, etc., I don't usually go ahead and do that, because I have seen it from 0 to 1, so I know exactly how those minds operate. So if they're saying it's in the pipeline, it might never be there even. But usually some of the things which are launched on Product Hunt, etc., they at least have that's a level good bar, because Product Hunt allows you to launch only when you have a working demo, not just showcase landing pages, etc. So my go-to is going to Product Hunt, because they have at least one feature working well. Then when I try it out, and if I'm impressed, I usually try to get subscriptions as well, if it's something that saves my time. And yeah, and one of the other things is I do a lot of curation, which is all the voice AI startups that are coming up, all the, let's say, quiz apps that are coming up. I write threads on that. So from a creator perspective, it's not just satisfying one problem that I have, but rather I want to know how far they are developed, so that I can mention the top 10 tools, whether they are in that or not. So from that perspective also, it's useful for me.
A good rule of thumb, like if it's on Product Hunt, it's kind of past the first low bar. Do you know if there like people looking at this at Product Hunt?
Yeah, so Product Hunt allows you to launch only when you have working product, not just collect signups, things like that.
And so they test that.
Yeah, some level of test, I guess. Yeah.
Let's talk about startup scene in India. I'm seeing a lot coming out in our space, in the kind of machine dubbing, AI dubbing, transcription. I mean, now you're here. So is natural language processing generally kind of a big deal in India? And what are some of the other areas that people maybe related in the broadest possible sense to language that people are building in?
Definitely, data science is a big area in India that people are upskilling or have been involved in. And I would say still big research happens, of course, in Silicon Valley and all around the world, and some things are propagated. So far, mostly, at least if you take out the last 2-3 years, prior to that, it was mostly on the applied layer of these technologies that are coming up. Only in the recent, let's say 3-4 years, people have, started collecting data and building their own models on open source tech stack. And of course, companies like Hugging Face, etc., also democratize that AI building. And now with serverless GPUs and other things. So I think there are some few movers in this space that propelled the innovation as well. One is serverless GPU, one is open source ML like Hugging Face. Second is actually vector search companies, doing the semantic search, vector search, vector embeddings, providing that also as serverless or pay per use sometimes. Companies like Pinecone, VV8, all these companies. With all these things, I think it has become easier to iterate and do R&D as well, with Google Colab, etc., building models in there without expensive compute. Google Colab is free, where you can sign up and train your own GPU model on there for a couple of hours of compute for free. So all these things are paved way, and still a lot of research happens outside of India, and then it gets propagated here. But at least in the last 3-4 years, I've seen good number of companies. Of course, I think you are familiar with Dubbers and quite a lot of other, even voice startups and large language model startups that are coming up. So good to see. Let's see how far things go. Yeah.
How do you form a startup in India? Like, how do you incorporate? How do you hire? How do you scale? But like, I want to know the nuts and bolts. Like here, I got to incorporate. It's a bit of it's not like the New Zealand 1 day, 1 click. It takes maybe 10 days here in Switzerland. It's not super bureaucratic, but it does take a bit of time. How is that in India? Is it 1 day, 1 click? Or is it like, I remember there was this like the Raj or something like that big Indian bureaucracy myth, like maybe 10, 15 years ago. So just walk me through the nuts and bolts.
Definitely, it's not one click like you do US Delaware or things like that. Definitely, it's, I would say, not too bad. Probably 2 weeks to 1 month process. And there are few things which is you cannot have just one person company. I mean, if you're building something equivalent to C Corp in India, which is called as private limited, you need to have at least two founders and bank account, etc. Mostly things have been online, that you can almost form a company online. Probably it will take 2 weeks to 1 month. I think forming a company is not the toughest part, but there are several other things which is you need to do monthly filings, quarterly filings if you cross a certain threshold, etc. Which the threshold is not too big when you operate even at medium scale. So the logistics, etc., are definitely there, and I think it's the same everywhere. Um, to be very honest, I don't think the operations part is complex. Rather, I mean, if you have the money, you can hire a chartered accountant, and there are companies which can do the task for you. Um, but few things that I've noticed is, when it comes to check sizes of raising VC funds and what salaries you can draw as a founder, I think still a lot of things need to improve. Because to be very honest, one reason why I haven't raised funding is I make more than what an average, let's say, even seed or series A founder makes. And usually they'll give pre-seed for me and let let there be for at least 1-2 years to raise seed and other things, right? So for me it never made sense. And I'll tell you one more catch, which is I have registered a Delaware C corporation, so you can actually do it as a non, so anyone can register a US Delaware C corp without being and staying in US, and it's expensive to operate, I'll put that upfront. But I am the kind of guy who can pay 10x, but I want easier life, everything online. So in US, I could register on my own, just sending details from here. I never had to sign anything in ink at all. Everything was online. Yeah. But so the hiring part, I would say hiring is kind of easier in the sense that at least in the initial phases, because of course you have 1.3 billion people. There are interns who want to work for even $60, $70 monthly. I'm saying monthly.
That's competitive.
Good startups don't exploit it, and the quality is kind of what you get even. But if you're, let's say, if you're doing data labeling, I would say you can hire somebody for $100 and let them do data labeling for a month, even interns who are looking for quick sum, etc. But when you get to competitive level, definitely hiring is tough, in the sense that I would say sometimes it's easier to find good people in Silicon Valley than in India. I mean, salaries, people who are good here will ask, I don't know, 150K, 300K even sometimes. That some people have hired from Silicon Valley at 100K from, let's say, Texas, etc., staying remote, than paying engineers here. So the top engineers, it's asymmetric, in the sense that top engineers, what they make, the kind of lifestyle they have is definitely asymmetric. Because if you make close to, let's say, 200K in India, you almost live like a 500,000 or 800K engineer in Silicon Valley, because you can afford maid for cooking food, taking care of household, and you can get a luxurious, let's say, swimming pool rooftop thing even for probably 300K, 400K, or 500K, something like that. So if you are in the top brass, you actually enjoy asymmetric benefits even when compared to counterparts in US. That's what at least I've seen. But of course, it does take, with 1.3 billion people, the competition is also cutthroat. Like survival is, I think, yeah, that's one of the things that a lot of people say. Like that's why everyone pushes you to engineering or something like that. Not because they are against other arts. It's just that first they want to make sure that survival is there, then you concentrate on other things. But yeah, the short thing is with 1.3 billion people and resources like this, constrained cities, there definitely, you have to cut corners. The best you can do is equip yourself, uh, at least on a personal level, upskill yourself and be better. Yeah.
And is it very different between the different cities? I mean, now you're in Hyderabad. Is it very different than Mumbai or Delhi, or is it kind of flattened out?
It is very different in the sense that Bangalore is like Silicon Valley, where things are happening. Every other guy that you talk might be into Web3 or into AI or full stack development, etc. Uh, and there are always jokes about if you have your laptop open with Chat GPT and you have some Web3 and other T-shirts, then a VC might approach you if you're sipping your $30 coffee. But fortunately, in Hyderabad, at least where I live, the startup scene exists, but it's not a huge chunk. And I kind of love it low in the sense that, I'm kind of like bootstrapped. I'm isolated from everybody. I don't have like a big ecosystem where I talk to or exchange. I don't have like mentors or anybody. I just build in silos, building in public, online, and my own thing, etc. So I'm not too concerned, and it is harder to raise venture capital or hire folks in Hyderabad than in Bangalore. So if I had all these troubles, which is raising venture capital as well as hiring team, I would definitely feel left out staying in Hyderabad as opposed to Bangalore. Bangalore is like Silicon Valley, and Hyderabad, you can think of it like, I don't know, maybe New York or sometimes Texas, where there's some scene, but not too much.
Obviously, we discussed for the whole podcast the multiple projects that you're running, right? So, what about 2023 and beyond? What's the plan? Are you going to settle on a single project full time, or you kind of enjoy having all these different balls up in the air? Like, what's the planning this year, next year?
So definitely the ideal thing is to settle on one project and do it full time. But few things need to happen before that, which is I need to sell the other projects, which I don't think at the moment I'm ready. Like, and I am enjoying working on them, and most of the people who, you know, want to buy it or want to just buy it at, let's say, 5 times ARR or something like that, and it doesn't make too much sense for me. Um, the reason why I say want to work on one project in the long term is sometimes context switching hurts quite a lot. I need to maintain 3 GitHub repos for these 3 projects. Then if client comes, then I have to work on their stack, their AWS. And for courses, I need to work on other track, creating, recording them, etc. So to be very honest, it's taxing. And right now, the other thing is, if I raise VC money and go forward, the thing is that you have to be committed for at least 4 to 7 years timeline to work on that project and be there. And we wanted to go down that route probably when we are making, let's say, $10,000 MRR, etc. Then there is some product validation, market fit that happened. Then it's worth dedicating our next 4 to 5 years on that. Now, MicroSAS is such that tomorrow I'm not happy with this or I don't have the time, I can go list it and sell it at standard pricing if I want and exit out of it. And typical VC exits, it's not easy to get an exit because you have to align multiple stars, which is your company has to be on high growth curve as well as be a good acquisition target for somebody, and it should give good returns to VCs. Now, let's say Question is making $1,500, probably I can sell it at 100K, which is 1,500 into 12 into 6 or 7 multiple or something like that. And I can walk away with that 100K, and I am the only sole decision maker. I don't need to do anything, right? And I feel very comfortable that way. Right now, I love working on all of them. because no one pushed me to even do them in the first place. And all of them are profitable. So I'm not losing money on any of them. I've built, through the micro-SaaS journey, I've learned and built such that even at $100 monthly, that is profitable, because I use only pay-per-use serverless GPUs, pay-per-use vector search, and all these things, pay-per-use compute, serverless compute, even hosting and scaling apps on the front end, etc.
That's incredible. I mean, if you think about it, I think we're at the start of a revolution. If you think about it, if you can spin up something that's workable for, I mean, even if it's at a beta level, but you spin it up for 100 or 200 costs per month, and it's kind of an advanced product that somebody can actually use. Wow, where is this going?
See, I'm not even a full stack developer, right? I come from AI background, but I learned Bubble no code technology and built a UI UX and launched Question all on my own. So I didn't have to spend, let's say, tens of thousands of dollars on developer who does backend, front end. And I operated until recently on a $29 stack with Bubble, $29 plan. Only I was maxing out recently the compute, so I upgraded to $129 plan. But if you take out, I was paying for GPT-3 cost, whatever it is. If 1 month no one uses it, I get $0 bill. But if someone uses it, maybe I get $200. And I was paying only $29 per month to Bubble, and everything was integrated, Stripe, etc. So anyone could come in and pay. Yeah, I think definitely, like I always say, this is a lifestyle, and there are things like whether this lifestyle is ideal for you at the stage that you are in, at the mental stress that you want to take in, at the responsibilities that you want to take in, at the freedom versus money making trade-off that you want. One needs to evaluate whether it is right for them. But I'll tell you only one word, which is I moved from Silicon Valley 4 years back in 2018. Not even for a split second I thought, oh, I should have been there. I'm totally fine here. Probably the only thing I would change is if I 2x my MRR on this SaaS, then I don't even need to think about them anytime at all. Perhaps if sometimes I think about them, I only think that, okay, if it's a 2x MRR, what it is making, I would be more free in terms that I don't need to take consulting and completely probably off of that, things like that. Yeah.
Doesn't seem like a stretch target to 2x what you have now. So where do people find you on Twitter, on LinkedIn? Obviously, we're going to put it in the show notes, but quick shout out here as we're wrapping up.
You can just look me up, Ramsri, RAMSRI, space Gautam, GOUTHAM. And my profile picture, name, description is almost same on all the apps. So it is very hard for me, for you to miss if you just Google me even.
Thanks so much. Again, encourage everybody to go and connect and follow Ramsri here. And thanks so much for taking the time today.
Absolutely loved the podcast, Florian, and thanks for taking the time to, understanding the apps as well as going deeper into my interests and creator journey as well. Thank you.